Welcome to the Polygamer podcast, where gaming is for everyone. Join us as we expand the boundaries of the gaming community.
I'm your host, Ken Gagney. This week on Polygamer.
It's a space where many people have never been in an industry event where they see people like them, or people that are genuinely interested in who they are as a person and what their identity means to them. And that's so fulfilling.
That's Ashe Dryden, creator of AlterConf, a traveling conference series that provides safe opportunities for marginalized people and those who support them in the tech and gaming industries. AlterConf was founded in 2014, just around the same time as Polygamer, and I attended my first AlterConf when the event made its debut in Boston, Massachusetts on September 15th, 2014. I was excited to see Polygamer alumna Khadija Marenkov present there, as well as several other fascinating speakers who gave talks on topics that go beyond Equality and Diversity 101. In fact, that's one of the goals of AlterConf, is to elevate the discussion beyond the basics, the sort of things that you can find out by Googling or reading a book. And the individuals that AlterConf recruits to give these talks are almost exclusively marginalized voices. There have been roughly a dozen AlterConfs since that first one, and earlier this month I received an email update informing me that AlterConf was going international. Previously it had been exclusively a United States event, with one exception in Toronto, Ontario. Now we're going to see it coming to the Netherlands, Germany, Ireland, Australia, England, India, France, Austria, and Quebec. I think it's very exciting to see an event like this expanding so much, and I wish there were more events like this. Last summer, I decided that my gaming budget was such that I could travel to one out-of-state gaming conference, and it had to be either PAX Prime or GamerX. Now, PAX already has multiple locations. There's PAX West, PAX South, PAX East, which I go to every year because it's in my own backyard of Boston, and finally, also PAX Australia. Now, GamerX, at the time that I was making this decision, had only the single event. And I think there need to be more growth opportunities for the smaller spaces that promote equality and diversity, as opposed to the larger, more problematic events like PAX. I chose to go to GamerX, had a great time, and they have since announced that they are expanding to Australia, so that dream is being realized. AlterConf is an event that has been fighting that fight for almost 2 years now. Now, even though AlterConf does travel to its attendees and its participants, that doesn't mean it's necessarily restricted to the many diverse geographic locations it travels to. You can watch almost all the talks right on their website, which is alterconf.com. So on this week's Polygamer podcast, I'm speaking with Ashe Dryden about the evolution of AlterConf and how it has to change to accommodate an international audience, what sort of policies and code of conducts it requires and has in place, and how it affords to be in so many locations and recruit so many talented speakers. I'll also be speaking with her about another project she recently announced called the Fun Club, which you can find at joinfunclub.com. There will be links to all these resources in the show notes at polygamer.net. Or use our URL shortener to go specifically to this episode, plyg.me/38. That's for episode number 38. Full disclosure, Polygamer was a sponsor of the initial AlterConf in Boston. You can find that clearly cited right on their website. And I suspect before long I'll be supporting Ashe herself. She doesn't have a Patreon, but she has something similar on her website, AsheDryden.com. And who knows, if the fortune smile upon me, maybe I'll join the Fun Club as well. In the meantime, if you want to attend an AlterConf yourself, your next opportunity is this coming weekend. This episode airs on Wednesday, January 27th, and the next AlterConf is Saturday, January 30th, 2016 in Washington, D.C. Of course, this weekend is also the annual Global Game Jam, as we discussed in the last episode when I interviewed Carolyn Van Esseltine. So whether you are a developer, a speaker, an attendee, or whatever, this coming weekend is going to be a busy and great opportunity to support the gaming industry and the gaming community and your peers. Of course, you're already doing your part by supporting Polygamer, so thank you so much for listening. Today I'm chatting with Ashe Dryden, creator of AlterConf. Hi, Ashe.
Hi there.
How are you today?
Doing well. How are you?
Wonderful, thank you. So I already gave our listeners a brief summary of AlterConf, but just to make sure I got it right in your own words, what is AlterConf?
Yeah, it's a traveling conference series. It hits a different city every month, between 9 and 11 conferences a year, that centers marginalized people and gives them a stage to talk about awesome projects they're working on, their experiences, or things that they'd like to see change in the tech and gaming industries.
So it's not exclusively gaming, it's all of tech.
Exactly. There's a lot of crossover and overlap. So I wanted to be able to represent both communities, since so many of the problems that we have on either side plagues the other.
That's true. A lot of people, when they hear that I do a show like Polygamer, they think, gee, if I was interested in feminism, I wouldn't think gaming would be the most important field in which to address it. They would go after something like politics, but gaming is just a microcosm of issues that are being faced in other industries like tech at large.
Absolutely.
So AlterConf has now been around for a couple of years. It was founded in 2014, is that correct?
Yeah.
And we're now in 2016, so the event's been around for about a year and a half, 2 years. How has been the reception to AlterConf?
It's been really awesome. It's been great to see so many different kinds of people be able to talk about things that they're passionate about or things that they've been thinking about. And I'm always surprised at how happy people are that they attended, how much they learned, how much I learn every single event. So it's been really rewarding for me.
You're surprised at how happy people are to have attended?
I'm not surprised how happy they are. I mean, I don't know. It's something that I work really hard on. And it's always awesome to see people love something that you make.
Yes, that is one of the most rewarding experiences there is. Do you ever have trouble finding speakers for all these events, especially when you're going into a city where you don't have a background or connections?
Every now and again we do. After the first few events that we had, we started incorporating what we call ambassadors. So there are people that live and work in the community that we're traveling to. They have good community ties to tech, gaming, or both. And they help us reach out to communities where we may not otherwise be heard. So one of the big things about AlterConf is having as wide a range of voices and experiences represented as possible. And because the organization is run by me, a relatively privileged white, queer, cis woman, I want to make sure that everybody's voices have the opportunity to be heard. So that means that finding people where they are, getting people interested, and helping them come to a place where they feel that they can contribute something.
And it seems like you target cities that tend to be sort of tech hubs. I know that there's a lot of tech, for example, in Seattle, Boston, New York City, and then you have a few that might not necessarily pop to the top of my list, like Atlanta or Detroit.
Yeah, we actually didn't go after ones that we knew were or thought about specifically that they would be big tech hubs. The early cities, at least, were places that I had really strong connections there, that I knew that there were really awesome voices that I wanted to be heard, and I wanted to create an event where that they could speak. But now it's kind of hitting people where they are. I mean, the big part of AlterConf is many marginalized people don't have the time, the money, or the means to travel to conferences, so we bring the conference to them. So it's going to places where you don't normally see tech or gaming conferences, so everybody has an opportunity to participate.
I think it's great that you bring the conference to them because there are more and more iterations of events like PAX and GamerX, but they're still fairly limited. For me, for example, to attend GamerX, I have to fly at least 3,000 miles, which not everybody can do.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, many people can't take the time off of work. They have, children or other loved ones that they have to care for. They don't have the money. There are a lot of things that prevent people from attending those things. So it's actually cheaper on scale for us to travel to people than to expect 200 people to travel to us.
And who would you say is your target audience for these events? You're not necessarily going into a tech environment, for example, like a corporate environment where there is a predominantly straight, white, cisgendered male community, and then preaching to them about diversity. You seem to be attracting diverse audiences. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are. So our first focus with everything we do is centering marginalized people. And because there's always something that we can learn from each other, the attendees tend to be people who are interested in learning more and interested in making the industries better. So we actually have a really wide range of people in our audience. While the vast majority of our speakers are all marginalized people themselves, or our freelancers are marginalized people themselves, the attendees and the volunteers are a good mix of people from all walks of life.
When one marginalized group talks to the other, do you feel that that is preaching to the choir?
It can be. I think that there's always someone's perspective that gives you different ideas about how you can critique your own experience or the ways that you act or the things that you see in media. So I think that even when it's someone like you who's up in front of everyone, there's still something to be learned.
Because one of the challenges I face with this podcast, for example, is that most people who want to listen to a podcast about diversity are those who already value diversity and know of its importance. It's not necessarily people who need to be listening to a podcast like this. And I'm wondering if AlterConf is hitting the people who need to be hearing its message.
That's a good question. I think that it's a little bit of both. I think that for many people, when they hear about diversity, it means almost specifically women, and even more to the point, white, straight, cis women. So the fact that they're hearing different kinds of people and they're being exposed to different things means that they can expand their understanding of what diversity is. And to your point, we don't intentionally go after people who aren't at that 101 place. Like we specifically say about AlterConf that it's a place for 201 and beyond conversations. So we're looking for people who have a basic understanding of what the issues are out there and want to learn more. There are very few places right now, especially conferences, where people can learn more. Whereas we're seeing more industry conferences that are featuring some talks about diversity, but they're often 101 level.
I totally agree with that, and I don't know if the right word is, been guilty of that. At PAX East, I moderate a panel on feminism in gaming, and that's one aspect of diversity which has been very much in the news in the past few years, but it overlooks a lot of the intersectionality that you're discussing.
Exactly. And like I said, I mean, the issues that individuals face is very different. I mean, even when you look at a speaker who speaks in Seattle, their experiences, even if they're in the same identity group as a speaker in Atlanta, may be very different.
And they may be very different from the experiences of somebody in Mumbai or South Africa. And AlterConf is now going after those audiences as well. You are expanding on a global scale.
Yeah, exactly. I'm really excited and nervous about it. This is the first project I've ever worked on that's ever gotten to be something this big. So, like I said, we travel to a different city every single year, and we went to Canada last year because we're US based. But next year we're doing South Africa, Eastern Europe. We're doing Mumbai and Australia. We're hoping to add some cities in South and Central America and potentially add something in Lagos and Nigeria. But yeah, it's kind of unreal. And there are a lot of extra challenges that come with doing something on a global scale, especially when you consider the fact that I speak English and Spanish at about kindergarten level. So there are a lot of different things that we have to keep in mind when it comes to custom fitting AlterConf to what audiences in other countries need and want.
Now, I imagine that there are, of course, a lot of logistical challenges. For example, you're probably not even going to be seeing the space in which you'll be hosting the event until a day or two before. You're not going to be making a separate trip out there to scope it out.
Absolutely. And in countries where the dominant language isn't English, the program itself won't be English. So in many cases, we won't even be able to understand what the speakers are saying. But we are focusing really on, like I said, we center marginalized people and their needs in everything that we do. And part of that is, as Americans who are very dominant when it comes to tech and gaming culture and media and culture as a whole, we want to make sure that we're not bringing requirements because of our being Americans, because of our not speaking, German or, whatever other language. We want to make sure that we can meet people where they are and that they can have an experience that's as least amount of stressful for them as possible.
But at the same time, how do you make sure that what you're bringing to these international audiences isn't necessarily American values, because their culture might be very different?
Oh, absolutely. So for all of our American and Canadian events, the people who have chosen the talks are not me. I anonymize all the talks and I give them to a panel of our former speakers. So they go through and they choose the talks. For our international events, we have to do something a little bit different because in many cases, we're only going to one city in each country. So that means that we have to put together a panel of people who will be choosing the talks based on what is relevant and important to people who live in the area, not somebody who's coming in with American sensibilities.
AlterConf brings all these different groups together, different marginalized or intersectional groups, and I attended one, and it was a fantastic opportunity to hear from a lot of different demographics I unfortunately don't often see on stage. Does that necessarily mean, though, that mainstream speakers are not being solicited? For example, I often see calls for speakers at AlterConf, and you're looking specifically for marginalized groups. Does that mean that if I submitted a talk as a straight white cisgendered male, that I probably might not make the final cut?
You wouldn't, because there are so few places in the industry that try to be inclusive of marginalized people and give them that experience. Very many marginalized people have never spoken before. So we want to make sure that we're giving them the space to have their voices be heard in the manner that makes the most sense to them. And because there are so many places for more privileged people to have that opportunity, we welcome them to come and listen and participate in discussions, but they won't be taking up stage time, no.
I think that's great, because I've had the very good fortune of being able to speak at events like PAX and GamerX, and I certainly don't need to be moving into AlterConf as well. One of the reasons I do Polygamer is because I think one of the best things that people in my privileged demographic can do is just shut up and listen. And I appreciate that AlterConf is an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, I spent the past 2 or 3 years traveling almost full time speaking at conferences. So AlterConf was kind of my way to repay that, right? Like I have gotten more than my fair share of stage time. So now I can use my platform to give that time and that space to other people.
In a way, AlterConf and Polygamer are trying to do the same thing, but in very different media.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. So one challenge that I've had with approaching diversity and coming to understand it is that, as I've said, I'm coming from a privileged background and perspective, and I do my best to understand where other people are coming from before I even go into the conversation, so that I'm not wasting their time and I'm being respectful of their time, because it's not a marginalized individual's responsibility to educate others about what it means to be marginalized. But at the same time, they are the only individuals who can speak from their own experience. So, for example, I'll try to do my best to read the literature on Feminism 101 so that somebody doesn't have to explain to me something that can be easily Googled. But at the same time, if I want to ask somebody, why did you found this educational program for marginalized groups in New York City, for example, to learn programming? There's very few people who can speak to that specific experience. So what is reasonable to expect other people to help us understand? Because that's kind of what AlterConf is hoping to do. In
a way, I like to think of AlterConf as a medium where people can speak their truth. Very often, marginalized people's voices and their perspectives are drowned out by everything else that's going on, or questions are asked that seem combative or not really furthering the discourse. So AlterConf gives them that opportunity to speak their truth and to say it out loud, and to know that that's a space specifically for them, specifically for that, a safe space where they can do that and they can further that discussion without worrying about having to explain individual nuance to people who aren't familiar. To your question about, marginalized people are the best to speak from their own experiences, I absolutely agree. And I think as more privileged people, it's our duty to sit back and listen. So because we are being gifted this time where these speakers are, coming up and talking about something that might be really heartfelt or really hard for them, our duty then is to listen, like to be the ship that carries that along the sea for them, and to learn and to help make things better from that. So I think that I personally appreciate a lot more of that. I don't want to say passive learning, but receptive listening, right? Like we're listening with our whole bodies to what somebody is saying and how they're saying it.
And I would hope that if somebody has gone through the trouble of registering for and attending an AlterConf, that they are there to listen and be receptive to what they're being exposed to.
Yes. And I don't think that we've, to my knowledge, we haven't had any issues where somebody has attended and not been aware of what the program would present them with. But we've definitely had disagreements over content and things because there's so much gray area. And like I said, everybody's experiences are different and identities overlap in ways that make some people's experience is very different than other people's, that there have definitely been disagreements around those kinds of things, but nothing to the like argumentative point or challenging point that you experience at mainstream conferences where I've spoken before, where many of the questions are challenging who you are as an individual with set identities.
And how do you resolve those disagreements at AlterConf?
So we have a code of conduct, which we have enforced multiple times. If you're not familiar with codes of conduct, they're basically written down guidelines and expectations about how we want people to act in the space. The code of conduct was really important to us as an organization because, like I said, we want to center marginalized people. And a lot of these discussions are very sensitive. They're very personal to a lot of people. And for some people, it means, hard things like depression and loss of life. So we want to make sure that everybody is coming in with the best intentions and treating everybody thoughtfully and listening, to the best of their ability about what's going on without making judgments about, where an individual is coming from or if they are representative enough of, a certain group and that kind of thing. So we have had issues with jokes that weren't appropriate. And, we've had to, stand up in front of everyone and talk about why it was inappropriate and apologize for it happening because it's our duty to maintain that safe space. And I think that a lot of people are surprised that an organization like AlterConf has a code of conduct because many people up to this point have kind of believed that if you have a space that's dominated by marginalized people, why would you need a code of conduct? But everyone makes mistakes and, everybody comes from different cultural experiences and what is, okay in one setting is not necessarily okay in another. So having the code of conduct, helps us kind of dictate, how those situations will go and how we have those conversations, and how we resolve them.
Would you say that a code of conduct is more helpful to prevent those issues by laying down the expectations, or is it more useful in addressing them when they do happen so that you have something to point to say, we're enforcing this?
So it really depends on the situation. For some people, reading a code of conduct, and I have to tell you for the number of events that I've run, and every single one of them has had a code of conduct, and not everyone actually reads the code of conduct and understands what it says. For some people, reading through it is enough for them to be more thoughtful in their language and their interactions with other people. For others, they're genuine misunderstandings. It's a difference in culture, like I said before, where they didn't realize that something like that would be considered harassment or whatever category it would fall into. So then the code of conduct serves for us as a means of being able to point to it and say, no, what just happened was a violation of our code of conduct. And this is how we handle those kinds of things. Or, if somebody is coming to us, we can talk about what ways we can resolve the issue, what we can do to make them feel safe and comfortable in the environment again.
Since this is a matter of sometimes people coming from different backgrounds and not understanding what constitutes harassment, will the code of conduct need to be adapted for the international locations you're now going to?
So the code of conduct itself will remain the same, but the people who enforce the code of conduct will be different. I'll be present at the international ones more than likely, but we'll have trained different local individuals about what the code of conduct is, how we respond, and we'll be there to help with any conflicts. Because, like I said, American point of view is not the same, as the point of view of everyone else. Our culture is different. Our society is different. Our rules and expectations for each other are different. Some words, some English words even mean different things to different people. So we need to make sure that we're sensitive to that and that we're not bringing our American, I don't want to say morals, but our American understanding of social interaction into play when Americans aren't involved in the situation itself.
Do you have any particular hopes for your international AlterConfs that might be unique to those venues?
I'm not sure. I'm really excited to see the different kinds of talks and the different issues that are brought up. Because like I said, I mean, I've been doing this work full time 4 or 5 years, and there's something new that I learn every single day. And that's got to be doubly so when it comes to, you know, completely different countries and different historical perspectives and understanding of, you know, those kinds of things. So I'm interested to see what those cultural and historical differences bring to bear when it comes to what their deficiencies are in areas of diversity and inclusivity. You know, their issues may not be the same that we experience in the U.S.
And one of the things I love about AlterConf is that you actually pay your speakers. Not only do you not ask them to come to you, you go to them, but you go to them and you give them money, which is wonderful because these are experts in their fields who are taking time out of their lives to share that knowledge, and that deserves some sort of a compensation. So few conferences and conventions, including some much larger scale ones that sell their tickets for a lot more money, do not reimburse their speakers. So how is it that AlterConf is able to do that when other events are not?
We make it a priority. It's something that I personally learned when I was speaking at a lot of conferences. Many conferences don't pay you for your time. They don't cover your travel. They don't even, some don't even compensate you for the ticket. Like they make you buy a ticket for a conference that you're speaking at, that you're helping sell the tickets for. And I didn't see any rhyme or reason in that, especially as a marginalized person, coming from a point of view where I'm making less money. I work for myself. It's not like I can have, you know, my boss, Mr. Moneybanks, give me a giant check that's going to allow me to cover the $2,000 that will be the airline ticket, the hotel, the food, the taxis, everything involved. So all of that money adds up. And I really wanted to show people who are speaking at AlterConf, as well as our freelancers are all paid too, and they're marginalized people as well, that their labor is valuable and that we value it, and that going forward, it can help give them the perspective of what it means to work and be fairly compensated for that labor.
And how does AlterConf keep itself so affordable? I mean, you just said that you don't have a Mr. Moneybags who can back an event like this. So, and of course, the tickets are reasonably priced that marginalized groups are able to attend. So what's your secret?
So we work really hard to work with local companies who want to sponsor the event. That gives us the money to provide things like free childcare, captioning, sign language interpreters, inclusive meals, being able to provide no-cost tickets for people who need them, venue space, making things more accessible if we need to, all different kinds of things, as well as paying everyone. So because we put all of those things first, we know before we go into a city exactly how much money we're going to need. If we're going to pay people at least X dollars, we need to raise at least Y. So we work really hard to make that happen.
Do you find that's easier now that AlterConf has been around for a while and has a reputation?
In some places, yes. So there, in cities where there is a much larger tech company presence, and I say tech company specifically because we haven't had much luck getting gaming companies to sponsor us, honestly. But cities where there's a large tech company presence, we've had no problem getting sponsorship. San Francisco, we hosted in Oakland, right across the bay. We had no problem. Portland, Seattle, we had no problem raising funds there. But when it came to cities like Detroit, Atlanta, Austin, we had a really hard time. And in some cases, we even lost money on the events. And it's hard to look at that because the cities where we had a much harder time bringing in money were also the cities where we had far more people of color speaking. They're cities that have a much larger population of color. And it hurts me personally because we pay each speaker a minimum of $200 US. We don't make any profit off our events intentionally. Anything that we have left over, we divide amongst our speakers equally. So everybody gets paid the same amount. But between cities, depending on how much we raise and how much we spend, In some cities, speakers get paid far more than in others. So, like I said, in those cities where we had far more speakers of color, where there's much larger population of color, we ended up paying those speakers less because we had less sponsorship, which is not fair. It's the exact same labor. It's just being done in a different venue. So that's something that I still really struggle with. And I think in the coming year, something that we're going to try doing is finding companies who want to sponsor the full run of talks through the year, or full run of conferences, through the year, so that we have less of that problem going forward.
That's a really awful situation. I'm sorry you're having to deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, it hurts my heart personally, but it impacts our speakers much more, right? For some people, getting paid by AlterConf for their talk means that, they can fly home for a holiday, or, they can get caught up on bills, or, whatever it is. So that impacts them much more than it does me as an organizer. So my job is to make that situation as fair as possible. And it just means that we have to work harder in 2016.
As we mentioned, this is not exclusively a gaming conference, but I would think that nonetheless the gaming industry would be supportive of an event like this. Do you have any theories as to why the tech industry is more supportive than the gaming industry?
I think that it shows the industry and the community as a whole that this is something that should be supported and something that they're working on actively. Where improving diversity internally is a long and hard process, and it's really slow to see change. So I think that being able to sponsor something like AlterConf and potentially being able to hire from our audience set is really important to them. I haven't seen the same big push in the gaming industry, and maybe that's just starting now, and perhaps that will help. I think that the other part of the issue is that the tech industry is awash in money right now. There's tons and tons of money that they have. So it makes it a little bit easier to sponsor an event that's, one-off in a city. They don't worry about it, where gaming companies seem a little bit more aloof because so much is riding on selling, X game that they're working on.
Bean, you mentioned the tech industry hiring from the speakers. Does that happen? Do people do industries and companies send scouts to AlterConf?
I wouldn't say that they send scouts, but they send representatives. So they come and they might speak with attendees about where they work and what they do. And we encourage that. We don't necessarily encourage, AlterConf isn't a career fair, and there are certainly different events that provide things like that, but we wanted it to be as neutral a territory as possible, so people didn't feel like they had to beat off recruiters. So the representatives of the companies are more than welcome, and they actually get tickets for sponsoring to attend. They learn something they can maybe go back and make their company better with. And they might speak with speakers about their perspective and potentially talk to them more about working with them or working with their products.
To increase the speaker's exposure, are the talks recorded and posted online?
Yep. You can see all of the videos at alterconf.com/talks.
I wasn't sure how that might jive with the event itself being a safe space, because I would not classify the internet as a safe space.
You are absolutely right. Unfortunately, you are right. Yes. So all of our videos are posted on YouTube, and the voting mechanism as well as the commenting is turned off. Gotcha.
But if people watching those videos want to find the speakers, for example, on Twitter, that contact information can be found pretty easily.
Yes, and I should mention that it's also up to the speaker whether or not their talk is recorded. We've had very many speakers who've opted not to have their talk recorded, either because they worried about pushback from their employer or former employers, or ability to get work in the future, or harassment campaigns, unfortunately.
Oh, that's great. So it's not a requirement of speaking that they sign a release form, for example.
Absolutely. Yeah, not at all. We don't require that we're able to take photos of them, that we have any rights to anything. Everybody who is involved with AlterConf has to give us explicit permission to do anything. Because like I said, we want to make sure that it's a space where they feel comfortable, and that means getting consent for everything that we want to do. So nobody in the audience can have their picture taken unless they're specifically asked. We do not take pictures of the audience. Speakers can choose to not have their talks recorded, disallow people live tweeting them, and not have pictures taken of them. So we go to, as many lengths as possible to make sure that we're creating as safe a situation as possible for everyone.
When I attended AlterConf, I appreciated seeing the closed captioning that was made available in real time for all the talks. Does that mean that the videos are transcribed as well?
That's something that we're working on with our post-production company, and something that I really want to see because as somebody who's hard of hearing, I can't watch videos without captioning. So that's something that we're also hoping to get taken care of in 2016.
Again, that's a struggle that I have with Polygamer. I want this to be accessible to a wide audience, but the funding isn't always there to hire a transcription service, for example.
Yep, exactly. So we're lucky that we have the transcript from the live events, but because it happens in real time, mistakes can be made, words can be jumbled or put out of order or sentences completely missing. So we can't just, unfortunately, copy those transcripts right into the video. We actually have to have somebody go through and do each one to give it justice. And all of our captioning is done by an actual human and not by a machine, so they're as accurate as possible. So all of that adds cost. And like I said, it's like right now we're raising money for our captioning and our sign language services throughout 2016. But that's something that I really want to tackle this year.
You mentioned that it introduces cost to have transcriptions available. Do you ever rely on volunteers?
We haven't in the past because we want people to be compensated for their labor. That's a really big tenet of ours. Like, we've even had freelancers come to us and say, like, I'll just do it for you for free. And we say, no, we value this. It's worth, this amount of money to us. So we won't pay you anything less than this. It's really important to us that everything is kept above board and it follows kind of the values that we have had from the beginning.
I want to pop the stack a bit and talk more about Diversity 101. You mentioned that almost everybody who comes to AlterConf understands what it is that they're going to be hearing and seeing. Do you recommend that anybody do any homework before coming to AlterConf to make sure that they're equipped to appreciate what they're going to hear? I haven't in the past, but it's not a bad idea.
I personally tell people often to follow people that are different from them on Twitter and just listen. Our entire catalog of talks is available online for free. There are awesome publications like Model View Culture that write really in-depth pieces and explain a lot of concepts that may be foreign to other people. So all of those are really great venues to learn a little bit more. But many of our talks give you a lot of the vocabulary and the base understanding that even if you're just starting to learn these kinds of things, that you can go home and easily Google them or ask questions.
One of the reasons AlterConf goes after Diversity 201 is because there are so many other resources available for Diversity 101. Do you think that after hosting these talks for a few years, you're eventually going to exhaust the Diversity 201 field and have to elevate to 301?
Because we don't require that people's talks fit into a 201 framework, we just ask them that it's not a 101 discussion. We have had much more difficult conversations, even more academic conversations at AlterConf. That being said, I don't think we could ever exhaust what is out there to discuss, and educating about the nuance and context of different situations. And people are talking about such varied things and topics that I personally can't imagine us ever running out of, unique discussions.
Right, because everybody's experiences are their own and can't be reproduced easily.
And not only that, but their creative interpretations of things. I mean, we've had documentaries shown at AlterConf. We've had stand-up comedy. We've had spoken poetry. We've had panel discussions. We've had Q&A. We've had all different kinds of formats that lend themselves to learning things in completely different ways and discussing things in unique and highly relevant ways.
Now, see, I don't think there was poetry or documentaries or stand-up comedy at the Boston event I went to, which reminds me, will I ever have the opportunity to attend another AlterConf in Boston? There are so many cities that you need to reach out to. Will you ever start backtracking and doing like AlterConf round 2?
You know, a lot of people have asked us that, and going into what will be our, third year as far as like year number goes, and us still not having run out of cities to go to, I'm not entirely sure. Like I said, I've had a lot of people ask us that, and I think our first priority is making sure that everybody has an opportunity to attend an AlterConf before we start kind of doing a repeat event. I don't know if that means that in the future we'll give people the tool set to be able to organize an AlterConf of their own, or if we end up coming back around. I'm just one person, and I go to almost every single AlterConf. So it's very hard to keep adding cities. So we'll see.
That is an interesting approach, though, is that if you had like an AlterConf kit and you franchised out.
Yeah, and I've discussed that before, and I've thought about it. And the hard things are that when I create an event and when I run an event, there's a certain amount of trust that people give me, whether that's people who know me personally or know of my reputation. They know that if they have an issue, if they have questions, if they need help, that I hope that they know those things, that they can come to me. I don't know if that's necessarily the case when it comes to other people running them. How do I vet somebody else running an AlterConf? What happens if a code of conduct violation comes up and it's not addressed, or a safety issue? I don't know. I think part of it is just a little bit of not wanting to let go of control for fear of someone getting hurt, and feeling responsible for that. So I'm not quite sure how it would work.
No, I totally get that, because you know what your standards are and how to make sure that the event lives up to it. And when you're not there on site, when you've delegated to somebody else, you're putting a lot of faith out there.
Yeah, and I mean, many of the people who are interested in having an AlterConf come to their city, and a lot of people offer their help and that kind of thing, have never run an event before. I have the privilege of having lots of experience. So there are a lot of issues that come up that to me aren't a big deal and they can be easily resolved. But for other people, they might make a mistake that I made, 5 years ago or, 2 events ago, that I've since learned from. So the nice thing about the same team going to every single city is that we have that built up experience. We have all the checklists. We know, how to react in a certain situation if something goes wrong. So I don't know. It's a lot of stress to think about putting on someone else too.
At the same time, putting on just one event a year for most people is a lot of work. You're doing it on almost monthly basis. Is this your full-time job?
So I spend about 70% of my time, of my what would be considered billable hours, working on AlterConf and Fund Club, and those kinds of community efforts. So yeah, I mean, and like I said, it's me and it's my very, very part-time assistant. So between the two of us, we organize about one conference a month.
That is a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, yes. And it's kind of a grueling pace. But at the same time, people want more cities. People want us to go more places. And like I said, I'm not quite sure of what an AlterConf post Ashe attending every single one could look like to resolve the demand.
There is only one of you.
I know. We need the future now.
So you have been to all the AlterConfs and will continue to do so for the foreseeable future. What have you learned from AlterConf?
Oh my gosh, what have I learned? Yeah, I've learned so much. I mean, we had a speaker at New York, which was either our first or second. Boston and New York, I never remember which one came first, but a speaker in New York who was Nigerian, and he talked about literacy and games and tech in Nigeria And I think that that was one of the more fascinating talks that I've seen, because I've read about like Nigeria and some parts of Nigerian culture in books and stuff before, but I've personally never been to Nigeria, and there's not much Nigerian media or many Nigerian people that I'm exposed to on a regular basis. So it was just so interesting to see what kinds of games and how culture is represented, and the language that they use. It was just so it was very entertaining. I really loved it. And as somebody who really loves learning and loves history and loves culture, it had like everything I wanted in a talk.
Wow, that was a fascinating talk. I'm sorry I couldn't have been there for it.
Well, luckily for you, the video is online.
Of course. I know what I'm doing this weekend.
Yep.
What about more abstractly? Would you say that AlterConf has made you a better person?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I am always encouraged by the strength of the people who attend and the things that they've gone through and what they've channeled, their frustration and negative experience and pain into, amazing text-based games and resource kits for people to make their lives better, or the lives around them. And I don't think that I've ever worked on a project that makes me feel so warm-hearted as AlterConf, because it's a space where many people have never been in an industry event where they see people like them, or people that are genuinely interested in who they are as a person and what their identity means to them. And that's so fulfilling. So that alone, I feel like, makes me a better person, if not for all of the things that I learn and take with me in the way that I talk and the way that I teach, and the projects and ideas that I lend my voice to and uplift and that kind of thing. It's definitely made me a better person.
That is wonderful to hear, and I'm sure that everybody who comes to AlterConf walks away a little bit better, I hope, too.
I hope so, too.
Yay. So AlterConf is coming to Washington, D.C. on January 30th, 2016, to Minneapolis on April 9th, to Cape Town, South Africa on August 27th, and you are working on other venues, including the Amsterdam, Berlin, Dublin, Boulder, Colorado. That's going to be in early 2016, it says?
Yep.
And Philadelphia as well?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. London, Melbourne, Mumbai, Montreal, New Orleans, Paris, and Vienna. That is a full docket. Are those all this calendar year?
We'd like to. It really depends on what we can get with venues and how long it takes to organize events. This is the first year that we've done non-North American events, so we're not sure what issues we may run into, or how, if some process is going to take us longer than normal. But we are hoping to get through all of these by the end of the year.
Wow, 15 destinations in 1 year, and I'm sure it'll be an iterative process. You will learn from the first international experience and apply that to the other ones.
Yep.
Wonderful. Wow, so people who are interested in knowing more about AlterConf can go to alterconf.com, and AlterConf is also on Twitter, I believe?
Yep, at AlterConf.
How intuitive. And unless there's anything else you want to talk about with AlterConf, you have another project I want to spend a few minutes talking with you about. Shall we move on?
Yeah, sounds great.
Yeah, so you have something called the Fund Club, which is sort of a crowdfunding process. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, so it's a joint project between myself and Shanley Kane, who runs Model View Culture. And we wanted a way to divert some of the money that's raised every month on Indiegogo and Kickstarter for these projects that are huge blockbusters that always have lots of eyes on them, to projects and organizations that are run by and for marginalized people in the tech industry. So you sign up on a mailing list. It's very simple. You sign up on a mailing list. Once a month, we send you an email with what our pick for the month is. Because we are targeting people who make at least $100,000 a year, you go and you give directly to the organization that we send you $100. And then the process starts all over again. So because of that, we were able to raise $54,000 in 7 months last year.
Wow, that is a lot of money.
Yeah, I know. It makes me feel really good because so many awesome programs and so much awesome work has been able to be done because of the generosity of people giving to our fun club projects. So they're able to like meet their goals, much sooner, or like do things that, if they didn't have that kind of budget, they would never be able to do. Plus, it has the added bonus of many more privileged people want to know where they can give their money. They just don't know where, or they want to know about these kinds of awesome organizations, but nobody is telling them about them. So we're hoping to kind of surface all of these cool things that are being done. So the hope is that going forward, they're more likely to receive funds to further their projects.
From looking at the Fun Club's website, which is joinfunclub.com, I didn't get that your target audience were people who make over $100,000 a year. So the $100 a month seemed rather ambitious to me at first.
Yeah. And you're certainly welcome to donate to each of our project organizations, less than the $100. But we ask specifically for our members to donate $100. And part of that is because we want to see that big swell. We really want to move the needle for these organizations where smaller donations aren't doing it enough. So after the donation period, which is 1 week, you have 1 week to fund the project. We release the name and the information of the organization. So if you don't have the $100 to give every month, you can then go and give what you're able to.
And you're not actually processing the money. The individuals go to the website of the organization, make the donation, and then send you the receipt?
So we don't touch any of the money. So they go directly to the website and they give funds. And then we just, when we send you an email, there's a button in the email that basically says, I donated, and it adds, into a spreadsheet for us to let us know that you've donated.
So it's the honor system.
Yep. At the end of the week, we also match the amount, not the names, just the amount with we speak to our contact at the organization. They say, yes, we can confirm we raised X number of dollars. So we go with whatever the final amount they say. And then at the end of that funding period, if you haven't donated, you get kicked out of the club. So it's really incentivized to keep you donating, because we don't want people to say, it's not an organization I care about, not one I'm interested in, so I'm not going to give them money. We are only sending you organizations that are worthy and deserving and are doing awesome things. So we don't want people to be picking and choosing.
But what does it mean to be kicked out of the club? I don't see a membership list on the website, and there's nothing to stop me from donating to any of these organizations at any time. So what does it mean to be in the club?
It's just, I don't know. I mean, it's just being able to say that, you give every month, that you do something that makes the industry better. We never advertise our list of membership or anything. It's just a extra incentive for you to donate.
And what is the curation process for selecting these organizations? Who does that?
So we have an open process where people can apply to have their project funded. We also run a Twitter account called Fund Better Tech, where people bubble up organizations, Indiegogo projects, or other fundraising efforts about organizations that would be a good fit for Fun Club. And then we basically have a list, and we go through the list once a month.
Wow. And it seems to be working because, like you said, you've raised a butt ton of money.
Yep. And it's awesome, too, because we've had a really wide range of different organizations that we've helped, whether it's for mental health in the tech industry or helping trans people get education around programming and that kind of thing and help them get jobs, or things that are elevating the work of people of color, or helping people not get evicted from their homes in San Francisco, or raising money in St. Louis with Hands Up United. Like, we've done a ton of different kinds of things that kind of shows what kind of things we're looking for in our quote unquote portfolio.
Do you have any particular hopes for this project, other than, of course, to raise even more money?
Always to raise more money. We've been wanting to hit the $10,000 a month mark for a while. Our last month, which was December, we raised $9,000, which is the most that we've raised in a single month in the past 7 months that we've been operating the program. So our big goal right now is getting to that 10K mark so that we can go to organizations, because oftentimes they don't even know that they've been nominated until we send them an email and we say, hey, we've chosen you to receive funding from Fun Club. It takes no work on your side. You just collect money, right? We would love to go to them and say, you can expect that you will have at the end of 1 week at least $10,000. Like, it gives me chills thinking about it. It's just, I would love to see that happen sooner than later. It would be a great way to start off 2016.
Yeah, a $10,000 boost in a single month for the organizations that you're targeting is vastly significant.
Yep. I mean, many of these organizations are run by a couple people in their free time after work, and they are scrimping and saving their own money to make these kinds of things happen. So if we can show that they have community support and that we find value in what they do, it's and elevating their name, it's possible that they'll get recognition from other organizations that can help provide them the funding that they need in the future.
So $10,000 a month is your stretch goal at this time.
Yeah, I mean, we're not too far off. We've trended upwards, I think, in almost every single one of our months previous. So it wouldn't be out of the blue that we would hit $10,000 this month. And I believe that our next funding round starts in about 10 days.
Oh, so it goes from the middle of the calendar month or so?
So it's like the second or third Monday every single month, and you have 1 week. So the funding round lasts just 1 week, from Monday through a Sunday night at midnight.
And that just allows you to keep the accounting nice and tight as opposed to running all calendar month?
Exactly. Plus, I mean, this is an effort that's run it's like my third job, kind of. So to keep it to 1 week, both gives people the additional incentive that, like, hey, if I don't give, right away, then I'm going to be kicked out of the club. So it's on people's minds right away and they act right away. But also it doesn't start encroaching on all of the other time that I'm dedicating to all of the other work I'm doing.
And one last question. You have so much other work that you're doing, including AlterConf and its global expansion. What was the inspiration to add another project to your plate? Where did the Fun Club come from?
Shanley and I were just talking about how hard it is for these kinds of organizations to raise money, where, if you look at Kickstarter, the things that get, $50,000, $100,000, $200,000 is like, do we really need a smart toothbrush? Okay. We are seeing those kinds of projects get so much funding. And then the organizations that we want to see succeed are struggling to raise $1,000, and it's just, we wanted to go after the people who had the money and who should be doing something good with it. If you can kick in $200 to a Kickstarter every month, then this is nothing.
It's occurred to me that many of the nonprofit donations that this country makes goes to alma maters and universities and museums, which have these endowments in the millions, if not in some cases the billions. And it just seems so lopsided that these smaller organizations that are trying to do just as much good get so overlooked.
Yeah, well, I mean, they don't have full-time fundraisers. They don't have an entire team of fundraisers and marketers. And like I said, a lot of times it's one or two people, and they're doing the work themselves and fundraising, So making it easier for them to do what's important, to further their mission instead of banging on people's doors and asking them for $5, makes a huge difference to what they're able to achieve.
Excellent. Well, because you weren't doing enough good already, I am thrilled that the Fun Club is now a part of your portfolio, even if it keeps you up at night, but...
Well, it doesn't keep me up at night. It makes me happy. It's a very fun time of month for me that we can, we can make somebody's year in a week, which how many other jobs can you say that you can do that? We have organizations that feed kids and give them books and help people from getting kicked out of their homes. Like, how many people can say that, they help make those things happen? So I'm very, very thankful that I'm able to do the work that I do.
So you get your own reward out of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Wonderful. Ashe, thank you so much for giving me the last hour of your time. Could you remind our listeners where to find these variety of projects and yourself online?
Yeah, no problem. So my name is Ashe, A-S-H-E, Dryden, and you can find me online under Ashe Dryden pretty much everywhere. My website, AsheDryden.com, Twitter, Ashe Dryden. I run AlterConf, the traveling conference series, at AlterConf.com, AlterConf on Twitter. And the last project we talked about, Fund Club, is joinfund with a D, joinfundclub.com, and Fund Better Tech on Twitter.
Wonderful. And there will be links to all those in the show notes. Ashe, thanks so much and Happy New Year.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
This has been Polygamer, a Gamebits production. Find more episodes, read our blog, or send feedback at polygamer.net.